You know, oddly enough, even though this is technically the very first video on the channel that we're making, with this guy in the title and the thumbnail and everything, this isn't by far the first time we are talking about him on the channel. When it comes to all the other videos we've made about Buffalo Sabres young guys and prospects, who's going to win certain awards and who's doing well in Rochester, we always have this guy's name in the back of our minds, and we've said it a few times in passing, but as we've said, there hasn't been a formal video done about him until now. Today I felt it was appropriate to go out there and talk about one of the most underrated prospects in the NHL, who is finally getting his opportunity to shine at the top league in the world with Buffalo, and who is doing a very good job in the process. No, we're not talking about Jack Quinn. In fact, we've said this guy's name a ton when talking about Quinn in the past, and I've said several times that I liked him more than Quinn. Let's go over to the 2020 NHL Entry Draft in the second round and go over a German player that the Sabres took 34th overall. It is none other than John Jason Peterka, aka just JJ Peterka. Now, if you've been following any of these videos, then you've definitely heard me say his name before, and I've always expressed how much I thought he was a great prospect, but this is going to be a very nice deep dive to anybody who has not actually explored his profile in the past, and we're going to be covering most of that in this video over here. So let's go over JJ Peterka, what he's been doing so far in his short career as a Buffalo Sabres prospect, and how he's performed in the limited sample size to kick off 2022-2023. As we had said, Peterka was a second-round guy drafted by the Sabres in the 2020 NHL Entry Draft. Now, he was taken in this spot, but I honestly thought he could have gone a little bit higher, and it's very apparent that most NHL scouts and the media thought so as well. He was ranked 24th by Elite Prospects, 29th by Future Considerations, 28th by TSN and Craig Button, 17th by McKeen's, 23rd by TSN and Bob McKenzie, and he was the 7th best European skater by NHL Central Scouting. So this was a guy that if you told me he would have gone somewhere, let's say 20 to 25th overall before the draft, I would have believed you. This was because back in 2020, JJ Peterka was playing for the EHC München team in the DEL, the German league, the top league, by the way, in that country, and he had himself 11 points in 42 games played. He's a 5'11", 192-pound winger center who was born in January of 2002, so even though the numbers, this 11 points in 40-something games in the DEL, is not really great, at the end of the day, he was a teenager playing in the top men's league in Germany, and that in and of itself was impressive enough to put eyes on his profile. Furthermore, he also had the World Juniors performance that took place in 2020 as well, where playing for Team Germany, as an underage player by the way, because he's only 17 years old at this time, he had 6 points in 7 games played. Now, if you go over to Team Germany in the World Juniors this season, you'll see that Dominik Bach, Peterka, Seider, Reichel, and Tim Stützle all carried the charge for this team. Just looking at where things are today, these are all some very good names, and obviously Seider and Stützle, they're very good NHL players. Tim Stützle was also drafted in the 2020 draft. He was taken 3rd overall by Ottawa. So just seeing a guy in Peterka that was in the same category as Tim Stützle go out there and actually be available too, it had a lot of people excited for what could be in store. This is the scouting report for Peterka back in this time frame from December 2019, written by Jukka Nevalainen in the Dobber Prospect System. Peterka has been playing against men in the DEL this season. He has put up 5 goals and 9 points in 24 games with Red Bull, the top team in the league right now. His point totals may not look all that impressive, but he's only played an average of 11.34 per game, although he has been frequently used in the power play. Peterka is expected to play a big role for Germany at the World Juniors later this month. His value comes from his great skating ability, which is noticeably good even at the men's level. He has both great speed and quickness, and he's a very fluid skater. He uses his speed effectively to force opponents to take penalties. He also has good skills, especially his puck handling skills and passing skills, which are both very good. Peterka has a great patience with the puck, most notably on the power play where he shines. His hockey sense is good, but not great. His all-around game is still very raw, even though he is on the older side for his draft class. His shift-to-shift and game-to-game consistency is also a bit of a concern. Peterka is projected to be drafted in the 2nd, 3rd round range of the draft. Now, this was written before the World Junior Showcase really put him on the map and had a lot of people going out there and saying, wait a minute, this guy's actually pretty good. This Peterka guy out of Germany who's producing a whole bunch of points playing alongside of Bach and Stützle, I mean, this is a pretty good player over here. The next season's worth of play saw Peterka put up 20 points in 30 games played for the same Red Bull team in the DEL, and he was over a point per game for EC Salzburg in, I believe that's the Austrian league, the Ice HL. You could also see that in the World Juniors this season, the guy had 10 points in 5 games played. And if you go over to the entire World Junior selection, he was right there, tied with Stützle, for third in the tournament in scoring behind Cousins and Zegras. This is what the Dauber scouting report from this time frame says. He demonstrated a high degree of offensive ability at the DEL level, contributing heavily to his team's possession of the puck in the lower half of the offensive zone. He also generated pressure by the goal line and was a frequent shooter from the right faceoff circle. He also showed improvements in his skating, moving up the ice with haste and recognizing when opportunistic odd-man breaks would occur. Peterka, who was previously viewed as a potential first-round pick in the 2020 draft, has shown much more for Sabres fans to be excited about this year. He's currently competing in exhibition matches with Team Germany's men's team against other international opponents. And then his first season in North America took place. He played 2 games for the regular Buffalo Sabres, getting 0 points, but that's kind of not really what I wanted to focus on, because when it comes to his Rochester Americans play in the AHL, we talk about Jack Quinn scoring all the points that he did, while JJ Peterka was part of the reason that Quinn was able to be as productive. In 70 games played for the Rochester Americans, JJ Peterka had 28 goals and 40 assists for 68 total points. He outscored Jack Quinn, although Quinn had a significantly fewer amount of games played, and Peterka was also over a point per game for the Rochester Americans in the postseason. This is the Dauber report from there. Peterka's transition to North American Pro Hockey was seamless. He led all AHL rookies in goals and points and even got into 2 NHL games. He still needs to work on his play away from the puck, and sometimes he tries to do too much on his own, but it'll come. Peterka, if you go over to what he has been showcasing so far to kick off 2022-2023, the speed, the tenacity, the desire to make things happen out there on the ice with and without the puck, Peterka so far for the Buffalo Sabres has 3 games played. He's got 2 goals, 1 assist for 3 total points. Meanwhile, Jack Quinn has 2 games played. He's got 0 points. Not to go out there and say that Jack Quinn is useless and JJ Peterka is the messiah, but just going off of how things have performed so far, it's very easy to see why some NHL fans are kind of surprised, saying, hey, who the heck is this dude? He came out of nowhere, and now he's actually producing well enough to be, let's say, maybe even in the Calder race? Leading the Calder race? I'm not really too sure. Here's a comment on the Buffalo Sabres subreddit going over what Peterka does well. His spacing and puck control are quite a match with his elite short burst speed. He's also going to be a student at the Alex Tuck School of Forechecking. He's got a top-line talent. Other comments here talk about his positioning and awareness and his ability to showcase his IQ with drop passes. Here's what another comment from R. Maz says: I cannot remember the last time the Sabres got a forward with high offensive potential outside of the first round. You probably would have to go back to Jason Pominville and or Derek Roy. JJ Peterka is a guy that I've been kind of waxing poetic about for years now. So seeing how things have gone from the World Junior Showcase where he was at double a point per game to the Rochester American stint he had last season where he was very, very good and one of the best rookies in the entire AHL to where he is right now, where early on in the 2023 NHL season he is impressing. It makes me so much more happy to see that all of us back in 2020 who were asking, hey, why the heck is Peterka still available at the start of round 2 of the entry draft? We were all kind of validated when it comes to asking that question, because at the end of the day, JJ Peterka is here to stay, and he's looking very, very good. The intensity has carried over, the skills have carried over too. I guess you could say that when it comes to Alex Tuck being the forward that he is, a hard-nosed, pouncing forward that is really not afraid to take over a shift with his speed, Peterka might just be in that same boat and cut from that same mold, maybe with a tad bit more offensive IQ to be tapped into as he gets a little bit older. So, if you're a Buffalo Sabres fan, talk to the comments your thoughts about JJ Peterka and what he's done so far. Do you see him being a legitimate Calder contender right now over a guy like Owen Power or Jack Quinn? Because, I mean, there are a few rookies on the Buffalo Sabres right now. Peterka just happens to be one of them. He also happens to be the one with the most points as well. So, talk to the comments your thoughts about Peterka, the Sabres, the rookies they have on the organization so far, and the like. I hope you enjoyed this video, Trolls 99. And bye.